Hi, everybody. So today I have David Cowan with me, and we're going to have a conversation about, I would like to talk about why he changed his track and where the future is going as far as art and music and creativity. And we're going to talk about that and whatever else he wants to talk about. So anyway, I want to welcome him, and I'm excited to get to talk to him today. So tell me what you're interested in talking about, David.
We'll start with the things that you want to talk about, and I had a bunch of questions.
Okay.
Part of which you already touched on anyway.
Yeah. Feel free to ask whatever you want. So, I wanted to talk a bit about the 528 hertz or the 528 frequency and how that's going to be kind of the changing frequency. It's transformational. And I'm really excited to see that show up in music. And it's kind of fortuitous that you are already doing that. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah. I came across the solfeggio frequencies a few years ago, and I got this MP3 and I had these different frequencies and it would go through. I used to listen to it every morning and every night. And I had many experiences where I'd be like half asleep. My whole body would be vibrating, when I was listening to this music. And eventually I got to the point where sometimes it would vibrate without the music because I don't listen to it anymore. But when I discovered that, I was like, and I discovered the 440, what that was all about.
Yeah.
440 hertz and why that was a thing. And I was like, I would like to create music in one of these frequencies, and a lot of people do 432 because it's closest to 440, but you can do other frequencies too. And as I said to you just before we came on, I don't know, even though it was something I always wanted to do, I never actually created a song, in that frequency, you know what I mean? But for something happened yesterday, I think it was, and I just got the message to do it. So I was going through my software and trying to work out how to do it, and it wouldn't let me do 432 for some reason. I could do every even number except that, and then I just tried 528 and it worked. So yeah, quite funny that you brought it up now.
It is funny. I feel like we're all connected so much and we have no idea. And as we're doing things, like I have a friend who she'll bring something up that I was about to bring up, and we're just like kind of flowing now, whereas before everything was harder and more complicated. Like now the frequencies have opened up so we can just kind of flow, and that's going to be the way our life is in the future and now too.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what the arts and music and dancing and all of that stuff does in the future. I know that for me, like I love to write, and I have a book out there, and I think about like creating with color all the time. So you're doing it with sound, and I like to do it with color.
Right.
Because they're both frequencies, and we're going to get, our ears are going to work better and our eyes are going to work better in the future. So we're going to see more and we're going to hear more. And it's just
going to see different frequency. We'll see different things up in the electromagnetic spectrum that we don't see.
We'll be able to see energy. So if you saw the movie Avatar,
like an aura,
the glow, we're going to see the glow. And we're going to see more of the light spectrum. So all those ships that are oh so hidden will not be hidden anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
I've always wanted to see, I have quite a few UFO books here. I've always been fascinated by that phenomenon. And at some point, fairly recently, somebody told me, it must be last year, that when you've been abducted, because I used to get quite a few blood noses as a kid, and when you think about it, there's no reason for you to go to get a blood nose unless you really get hit there, or it's quite. I would just wake up middle of the night and just my nose would be bleeding, and and it was very odd. And it happened a couple of months ago, actually, for the first time in decades. It was really strange. And I actually asked Janine about it on one of the videos I did with her a couple of months ago, and she said, yeah, you were visited. So that was quite interesting.
But it was good versus bad, right?
Yeah, well, apparently I was abducted like once or twice by the bad ones, and then the good ones came to save me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, that happens a lot. So I think that when you come in and you're a higher density, you're like tribe from, you know, whatever you were, like say you were an Arcturian or whatever, they're watching you. So they're making sure that you're okay. So if you get abducted, they're like on it. They're ready to get you out of there because you have a mission and they're not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It is very strange.
Yeah.
So
what do you see then for the arts and the music and the other creative industries and the dance? Like how is it going to be different to what it is now?
Well, I think in like just in general, it's going to explode. So money's not going to be a factor for people anymore. So the whole survival issue won't exist. So then what are we going to do? We're going to create.
Yeah, precisely.
And the people that we're going to meet are already creating. That's all they do. That's all they care about is creating a new thing or doing a new project. So for us, we're going to start to come into our own, and our gifts are going to be there. So all of our DNA will be activated. So we'll have
like the superpowers.
Yeah, we'll have more skills. And we won't get a superpower where, you know, it's going to be so extreme that we can't handle it. Like it's not going to be like a cartoon where all of a sudden we have everything and we don't know how to control it. And we're just basically like flying through the air or something. That's not going to be how it turns out, because it's going to be as you can handle it, it will come in, but it's all around us. So it's going to be like in this, I call it a library, but it's like this tube. So we're going to have this tube of energy where all of our memories are at. And as we are ready, we can access them. Same with the
Is that something that we already have that we can't see? Are we going to be able to see this tube, or is it?
Yeah, it's like I think we'll see it when we want to see it. Like otherwise it won't really be visible, but I see it as a tube of light with like, remember, I don't know, you're kind of younger for this, but floppy disks, and you could just like stick them in.
I remember those.
Yeah. So I see it as like a whole library of floppy disks ready to just plucked and installed whenever you're ready.
So it's kind of like the Matrix, but a good version.
Yeah, and the version where you're in control of it. Yeah. Which we're in control of the Matrix too, but we've had so many people that are unaware that we're in one that it's been harder to control it.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot to wake up to, and I kind of didn't really fully grasp things until everything kicked off 2 years ago. You know, I didn't really. I knew things were wrong at that point, and I knew about the NWO and everything, but I just didn't know the depth and the width of all the control and, you know, everything. And now you can't really stop seeing it, and it's everywhere. You know, it's like so many different things and agendas, and it's once you what is seen can't be unseen. So it's interesting.
They came the other side of things. Yeah, from all angles.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
It's crazy. So I'm glad that's ending. And I just see that anything that's left is like mind control from before. And there's some of the AI here left, but not much. So it's pretty broken. So it's just people that have been under control they've been activated. There's some of that going on. But
did you how long have you known that we're going to this new world, like a good one?
So in 2009, I think it was, I realized that we were about to hit a different timeline. And this is before I was talking to my higher self and everything. But basically we came to Colorado because I had a vision when I was 12. So I had a vision that, and I woke up and we were coming down this valley on horses, my father and I, and there was a spot where I knew we would be safe. Because at this point, the timeline was basically the Edgar Casey type timeline where maybe 300,000 people made it through this switchover. But now,
right. So it's very bad. It was a bad
yeah,
one.
it was pretty bad, scary, and a lot of the land would be gone.
Yeah.
But now it's changed like massively. So I think the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, we had purchased this property that I had in my vision. And I was like feeling the pressure, like you need to build on there, you need to get things going, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, everything changed. It's going to be easier now. So we don't have to worry so much. And it was just like a button had been pushed. And now there's so many more people that are going to go through this, like billions are going to go through. Yeah.
Because I've spoken to two different people who said that they've seen different versions of the future. I would say more recently, one of them actually probably looked at it as everything was kicking off 2.5 years ago. And what she saw was really not good. She didn't even tell me. She didn't want to tell me. She said it was really bad. And so I asked her yesterday, actually, because I hadn't spoken to her in a while. And I said, remember that conversation we had where you said, I asked you if you could see the future, and you said yes. And I asked you what you saw, and you said it wasn't good. I said, have you looked at it recently? And she said, why? I said, well, I don't know. I think maybe we're on a different timeline now. I think maybe that the future is going to be far more positive. And her response was, it's complicated. and I don't think I still don't, I don't know. She doesn't know. She thinks that we're running out of time and
it's a choice.
And maybe it's possible that we could save it, but it may not work. And if we run out of time, then we're out of time and that's it. So
it really depends on the person too that you're talking to, like where they're at and what their belief system is and what their blocks are that they've accumulated throughout their life and as a child and stuff. Like what they can believe is possible is huge for who you're listening to. Like if you don't resonate with it, like if you feel like it's going to be good, but the person is saying it's going to be bad, then you have to just say, okay, well, I don't accept that. I'm going to take myself on this golden age timeline. And there's a lot of people going on the golden age timeline right now. So, and it's just grow.
So how would that work then? If there are two timelines and some people go down the AI timeline because they've taken the thing, or but then there's loads of people that haven't taken it. I think actually quite a lot of the world didn't take it. That's what I think. They definitely lied about those numbers. But how is that going to work? Are we going to be living like how are these two realities going to exist? I think they probably already are existing, aren't they? In many ways. But at the same time, aren't things going to get a lot worse in that respect for the other timeline and those people that are in there?
A lot of them will decide not to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And taking the thing was part of that, part of a soul choice. And a lot of it has to do with how old is your soul? Like, what did you come here for? Did you come here just to learn and then to go to another 3D planet? Or did you come here to go through ascension and to basically like evolve in the process? So a lot of people are deciding, and we have till 2027 to finish up that decision. But a lot of the people that are a hard no, like they've decided not to go forward, they're going to leave fairly soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because not as many as it would have been at all. Like it's not even close.
So in the old version, that was going to happen, were those 300,000, were they going to a good place? Were they going to the golden age and then the rest of everybody else just died? Or were those 300,000 going to stick around and it was going to be really bad? It was going to be really bad.
It was going to just be empty. Like they would be starting over on the planet, but they would be lonely and sad and, you know, kind of like isolated. That's how it felt. Like there were going to be people far, far away that you couldn't communicate with. It would take a long time to come back from it. And in this scenario, it's very quick to come back from it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot different. So, and we're going to have a lot more help too. Like in that scenario, I couldn't see the help that was there. But now we're going to have all this help, like from the ETs, from the people, the Tartarians, if you can believe that, outside of the dome. Like all of these people are going to be here to assist us to basically change in a very rapid way, to grow in a very rapid way and catch up to where we're supposed to be.
So I've been watching a lot of your videos about the Tartarians, and and one of my questions I had was, if the reptiles or reptilians had been in control of the planet for quite some time, right? How did
they weren't really in control? I get that the Anunnaki were in control. Yeah. And they were also in control of the reptilians, and the Greys really took over the reptilians. Yeah. But
then didn't they go away? Didn't the Anunnaki go away and
they evolved into a smaller being? So they kept genetically modifying themselves to become smaller and smaller. And so they were basically the elite.
Right. But how did Tartarians then get to the point where they had such an amazing society back in the day? How was that allowed to happen when then all of a sudden things just started getting progressively worse? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So 1,000 years is when the dome, like 1,000 years ago, the dome went up.
Okay.
And that was because the two factions, so we had polarity here. So when the Anunnaki came, they were from fourth density. They weren't really used to all this polarity of third density. So they split. So they became a good and a bad version of themselves. And the bad version was mostly the elite class. And when they got here, then they began to war.
Long skulls, with the long skulls.
Yeah, the longer skulls. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when they got here, they were very, very big. They were huge. So the Anunnaki, I always get, were like 40 feet tall.
Okay.
So they were gradually shrinking themselves the whole time with genetic modification. They were losing some of their skills by doing that. And anyway, and I kind of lost track of the question. But
no, it was how did the Tartarians so Tartaria that was before 1,000 years. Oh, sorry, before the dome.
Well, it was basically, you know, it was the naughty ones got stuck in the dome because they had been warring for 50,000 years. So, and I always get that the Arcturians are the ones who put them in the dome, but I'm sure they had help. But they had this frequency that they could create. So they just plopped this dome on top of them and basically said, don't come out until you grow up.
Okay.
Kind of thing. Like you're in prison now. So all the slaves of those, we'll just call them the elite, because that's basically, you know, it matriculated down to that. But the slaves and the elite got stuck inside the dome. Yeah. And then in 1796 is when I get that the Greys completely took over. So that's when, like, a lot of the Tartarian buildings were then destroyed, and the mud flood, which I get was a liquefaction. So there was just a lot of stuff that happened right then. And then we had all the repopulation happen and nobody really knew what was going on. So all that like ancient history that we're taught, that was really just before the liquefaction.
Okay. Right.
If that makes sense. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about, but it really makes sense, but you have to watch like every single video, like in sequence to see how it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been jumping around a bit. But
yeah.
I know in one of your videos you said that the dome will come down in March next year, right?
At the latest.
And is that when the ice wall will also collapse?
I think that'll go first.
But it doesn't mean Antarctica will disappear. It just means part of the wall will be removed so the Titarians can come in.
Well, so if you think about the dome, so we're inside of a dome, and then inside of that is an ice wall. So like, I don't really have anything. So if this was the dome, okay, then the ice wall would be this or like this. And we're inside of this bottle of pills.
Yeah.
And then when that disappears, all those other continents that are outside of it will show up. We'll be able to see them.
So Antarctica will disappear.
Well, the ice will. Antarctica is actually a continent, so it'll still be there. It just won't have any ice on it. And the wall itself will go. And it's really moving along quickly. And that's what a lot of those big weird thunderstorms are that we hear, and a lot of the lightning and stuff like that that's going on it's falling right now. So I think of it as calving. You know what calving is with like an iceberg? How it so it basically like keeps releasing parts of itself until into the water. But a lot of it is sky ice too. So the higher up is sky ice, and then the lower down is actual ice. But the oceans will rise slightly. I get about 2 inches, not very much, just like this much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Operation Fishbowl videos, or one video?
Mm-mm.
You know what Operation Fishbowl is?
No, I've never heard of it.
So Operation Fishbowl was a operation where I don't remember when it was. It must have been the 60s or 70s, I think.
Oh.
Where the US shot nuclear missiles into the sky.
Oh.
And I think they were trying to break it.
Yeah.
And because I've seen the videos, and it basically looks like this thing goes up. It kind of looks like fireworks a little bit. Like the missile goes up and it just hits this invisible thing, and then it just goes all over the place. Like, it's really interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's been extremely thick, the dome itself, but now it's thinning, very thin in places. So it could come down before March of 2023. A lot of it depends on consciousness.
Will it dissolve, or will it actually break? And
it'll dissolve. So nothing's going to come down.
We won't know
head
until it's
well, the sky will change.
Okay.
So we're not going to see the same things in the sky anymore. So that will be a shock.
The stars
are going to be a lot farther away. And then like Mars and Mercury and Venus will be very visible.
Right.
Yeah. And the moon, which
when you say the moon, do you mean not the one that we see?
No.
Not the no.
It'll be a little more smooth.
A different moon.
Yeah, it's the real moon. And it doesn't look like a planet as much as the moon that we see does. Like, I don't see that there's these big dents in it or any of that kind of stuff. It's a huge spaceship. So just like the movie Moonfall, That's what the moon boils down to pretty much that. Like that was excellent disclosure, that movie.
Okay, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Watch that one. Yeah.
So we're going to do the Simpsons movie this next week.
Oh yeah, obviously that popped into my head because they have a dome in some of their episodes or in the movie, and it cracks or something, doesn't it? And then
yeah, I can't wait to do it. I could not believe the beginning of the movie. Like I was like, look at all that disclosure right there.
I don't remember. I think I've seen it, but it must have been so long ago, so I don't remember.
It's really old. Like it was 2007, I think. But I did get it was a white hat movie. Like they somehow got a hold of that, information and put it out as a movie, but the show itself was not. Mm-mm.
Right. Do you remember that episode where Homer runs up to the two politicians and pulls their masks off? Do you remember that?
No.
And the aliens are underneath. And
really,
you know the two aliens, the one eye, they've got one eye.
Yeah.
Can't remember their names, but anyway, there's this one episode where there's two politicians.
That's so funny.
And there's a podium or something, and they're just standing there, and Homer runs up to them, and pulls off their masks, and the aliens underneath, and now it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, there's so much disclosure. It's just amazing. Like when you go back and you look, and it's like, oh my God, like they were telling us everything. But they put it in a way that made you think, oh, this is a joke, this is whatever. And that's part of the reason they're so in trouble. And this was the Greys that really took it all the way. And they've been banished from here. And I always see them behind like a frequency net. So they're like stuck. They can't come back at this point. And they also don't have any creativity or energy that they make on their own. So they're in real trouble right now because they don't have access.
They went all the way with the AI, didn't they? And
yeah. So they're basically robotic at this point. And that's what they wanted to do, but they didn't succeed. I think it would have just gotten worse and worse and worse. But it's very obvious, like right now, what's happening, that things are changing, and they're changing in such a rapid way that, the news is telling the truth now. Like I saw something amazing, which I can't say on the screen, but something on Fox News. And I was like, oh, they talked about this and how bad it was for you.
Right. Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, finally that's coming out. So they're close. They're really close to actually like that tower moment that our favorite Tarot reader talks about all the time. We're close to that. And it's just a matter of time. Yeah.
Because Fox does quite a lot of good stories. The problem is I think that it's a right-wing publication that a lot of the lefties just think.
Yeah, they don't watch it. But I noticed even CNN is doing stuff too now.
Oh wow, okay.
Like, yeah. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. And I don't watch it, but I see it on like social media platforms. And then I'm like, oh, look at that. So it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Our media is the worst.
Yeah.
Called Sky News. But but they're just still ramping it up here. Like all the fear about the C-19 and everything, it's just going crazy. And now we're on to our fourth one, and so I don't know.
Yeah, you guys are close. You're really close. I think everybody will pretty much go at once, as far as things changing. And it has to be a worldwide thing. So whatever happens, it has to affect the whole planet. Everybody has to be shocked.
Right.
And then things will change in a pretty rapid way. I feel like every single country within a week will be in massive change.
within a week of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You reckon
wherever
this year?
that,
You reckon this year?
what about there?
Do you think it'll be this year before
Oh
the end of
yeah.
the year?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm honestly
Good.
surprised it didn't happen already.
Oh, because it's dragging on so much, and everybody's tired of it, whether you're awake or not. Like everyone is just sick of it, you know.
Yeah. Well, and they can't let it go on too long because the consciousness will drop. So they have to
Yeah.
be really
Yeah.
strategic about it because consciousness is the key to everything. So
Mm.
as long as they get it done, like at the prime moment for the consciousness is still high. And also, and this sounds kind of obnoxious, but people that will be really angry haven't woken up yet,
Mm.
then that's when they have to do it, because they can't have the angry people wake up before they do the event, because then the event may have something may happen in between, like, people are not going to be happy when they find out what's been going on.
No,
So
yeah, but that's unavoidable though in many ways, isn't it? I mean,
it
a
is.
certain percentage of the population are just never going to wake up, and when they do, maybe they won't even believe it. So
Well, there will be 20%, I always get, that won't wake up.
yeah,
They're just not meant to. They're too young. If you think about the evolution of a soul, so you have the second dimension, which that's where Sasquatch lives, right? So, but then otherwise, then you have third dimension where, or third density, sorry, third density where
yeah,
the humans are, and then fourth density where basically it's human and ETs are coming into it, and elves and fairies and all that kind of stuff. And then fifth
yeah,
density where it's only ET pretty much. And then sixth density where some people they don't even have a body.
right,
So, and then seventh density, I don't think anybody really has a body.
yeah,
But if you're in third density, which is about 100,000 years long, if you just started, then you're not ready to go into fourth density.
yeah,
It's too much. It's like saying to a 1-year-old, okay, you're graduating high school today.
mm,
Go out and get a job.
yeah,
It's not fair, but it's very scary for a lot of people because they do have younger souls like in their family. But the thing is we go on
yeah,
forever. So
yeah.
it's not like you're really losing them. And once we get our gifts, we'll still be able to communicate. But really, we should just wish the best for them because they're going to go into something much easier next.
So how does the soul get created then? If because they're going to start somewhere, don't they?
Source. So God source creates the souls. We have like this little spark behind our belly button that is our peace. So we're a piece of God, basically.
Okay.
And we're out here to experience things for the whole because we're all one. So everybody has a slightly different perspective, a slightly different mission, all of that. So we're just here is basically, I don't know, like a feeler. We're out there learning, and all of it goes right back to source and the whole of all of us.
Yeah.
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 So.
So you don't see anything like because from 2020 to 2030 it was supposed to be this 10-year period where they really ramped it up, and actually the UN is it the UN the UN and WEF just made an announcement last week, I think, where they said they're gonna accelerate Agenda 2030.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, that's interesting. That to me also means that they're just gonna, like, do you think that, well, what I mean is they're gonna ramp it up, and so they can show more people the plan, right?
Yeah.
And here that they're already talking about digital IDs. They've been talking about it for a long time, and they're talking about different things to do with that, and having a social credit score and everything.
Mhm.
Do you think that's going to play it out
No,
briefly? Not even to show
maybe
people?
briefly, maybe for a week or two, but
Only
it
a
won't
week?
ever
Yeah.
implement. So nothing will, it will be a lot of scary discussion, but it's never
Yeah,
going to
they've started
really
talking
come to
about it now.
fruition. Yeah. And it's just to push as many people into kind of seeing something is wrong as possible, because
Yeah.
the more you can do that, and it's better for the, the news and all that stuff. You don't need to be running around and telling everybody, wake up, wake up. It's not a good idea at this point. But as they do slightly awaken, they'll be able to accept what's going to come, like the shock of what is coming, and they'll do better because of it. So it's basically like, even though it seems really crazy, it's almost like throwing them one of those life-saving donuts into the ocean and saying, okay, we're going to pull you out of there, because it's all about getting past their subconscious blocks to what is really true inside of them that they actually know. They just can't see it.
Yeah. Because I was thinking that obviously that, they're showing us the majority of, if not all of the original plan that was going to happen. And ages ago, I thought, well, why don't they just install everything at the same time and then let us live the dystopian nightmare for a couple of weeks, and then just stop it after 2 weeks or something, or a month or whatever. Maybe a month is a bit long, because maybe, who knows, but I think probably the reason for that they didn't do it that way is because they need people to wake up slowly-ish, like kind of slowly, because if you throw that kind of thing into it, then who knows what's going to happen. There'd be, I don't know,
Yeah. Well, and you think about like who's in this dome. You have the really young souls, then you have the fourth density souls that got stuck because they came in to help, and then you have fifth and sixth, and I know of one seventh density soul here who's very uncomfortable. But basically we all came in to raise the consciousness. So that's why we're here. We're here to change consciousness and to lift them up so that they can, as many as possible, can make it through the process.
Yeah. It's fascinating to watch people who just even 6 months, maybe not 6 months, like a year ago, are now getting all the information that we've been getting for the last 2 years or longer.
I know.
For certain things, and especially stuff about all the medicine and stuff. But the depth of the medicine, like not just this current one, but all the other ones that we've had throughout history, and it's just really interesting watching these people wake up. It's quite fascinating.
It is. And the consciousness, like they're even waking up to that. Like my husband has been semi-awake, right, this whole time. And he's like, he can't relate to some of it. He's like, that's just too outrageous. And, so I'm like, okay, I won't talk about it or whatever. But yesterday he said to me, oh, well, I almost hit a deer on my motorcycle on the way to work. And, but I knew you had the bubbles around me because I do all these like energetic bubbles, and nothing ever happens. Like the deer never comes all the way onto the roadway, or if it does, I'm able to avoid it. Like he's had such good luck with all the wildlife because he commutes quite a ways, and he was so like happy. He's like, I knew I was in my bubble. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad you appreciate it, but it was so interesting because I don't think he would have cared about that before. He would have thought I was a little nuts, and now it's like, he's grateful for it. So it's changing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's very, so much of the things that we've come across are just so far-fetched that I mean, it's no surprise people think you're crazy, because because there's just so many things. But then you know, a lot of the stuff that I was saying 2 years ago has come true. And so people that call me crazy, just either they're completely asleep still and they think that the medicine is still really good,
Right.
or they didn't take it and they go, yeah, no, you were right. Like you, I can't believe it, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and it's the programming goes so deep. Like it starts when you're born.
Oh yeah, we're talking
So
about decades
yeah,
of programming, you know,
so
5, 6,
break
7
through
decades.
that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
big.
it's crazy.
Mm.
I remember when I started doing a lot of personal development back in 2016, 17, and all the programming that I had to kind of break through, you know, just to change my belief system around business and life, and you know, all the different, and success and everything, and just the amount of resistance that my subconscious was throwing up, and I had to go through, was intense.
Yeah.
So I understand what these people, you know, what these people are feeling.
Right. And most of it's when you're before you're 7. And that's why
Right.
they always wanted to get a hold of younger human beings, because then they could program them. Yeah. So, but we're going to be free of programming in the future. So when we come in, and a lot of the babies now that are being born, they have all their DNAs intact. So they're doing things that babies never used to do before. Like my nephew, I think he's like 1, he started walking at 9 months, I think. And he's, you know, so advanced in comparison. And all the babies are doing a lot of stuff that nobody would have thought they were capable of before. And the young children, you know, too, the ones that have like ADD or whatever, actually, they just have a lot of energy inside of their body. So they're a higher soul, a higher being, and being put in a situation where they have to concentrate on something boring doesn't work. But and I think that's why a lot of those medicines were created, was to keep those souls from realizing who they are. Yeah. But that's
absolutely.
all going to end.
Yeah, I saw a video of a baby climbing a fridge.
Yeah.
And the same baby was hanging off this. It wasn't that high, but he was hanging off something in the kitchen. I don't know what it was. It was like a pole or something, a bar. It was really odd.
Yeah, they know what they're doing now. Like they come in, they might not be able to communicate completely, but pretty soon we're going to have telepathy, and you'll be able to talk to your baby. Like I know somebody who's pregnant right now, and she's having conversations with her child.
Yeah, right.
So,
and it's not even born yet.
Right. He's not born yet.
Wow. It's crazy. I guess that's why they would like to pump them full of jabs.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
To suppress consciousness and do a bunch of other things.
Yeah. It's all about consciousness, because as we're aware, and what they've done is against universal law, because
for sure.
Yeah, like in so many ways, there's so many facets that they've done that are against universal law. But as we become aware, we're actually so much more powerful than most beings. So our ability, because we're like a conglomeration of beings, like ET beings, all of these different DNA that are inside of us, we have more power than a lot of other beings. And that's why a lot of that DNA was deactivated, because they couldn't handle dealing with us. But the thing is we can reactivate our own DNA even if we believe it.
Right.
So we have so much more than we think we do. And we've been taught to be small, or to think you're not enough or whatever. And it's just a lie.
So will eventually everyone's programming get wiped with good reinstalled with good, you know what I mean? Like with good programming and other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're in an acceleration period right now. And it started like back in late March, early April. and it will go until late March, early April of next year. So basically right now is the time to deal with your subconscious stuff. And I've noticed it's coming up for a lot of people. So it's like being pushed to the surface and they have to deal with it right now. Whereas before you could just be like, no, I don't want to think about that. But now you have to think about it. Like there's no way around it. So we're being pushed. Yep. And that's going to free everybody up. So if you need to cry, then cry. If you're thinking about something that's hard, then forgive yourself for whatever action or memory that is. Forgive your parents, forgive past lives. Forgiveness is the key, really, to letting go of stuff, because it was just a lesson. It was an experience that you needed for this lifetime. So just see it as that instead of some thing where you were victimized, because we chose it.
Yeah, that's good, because some people were saying that all this madness was going to last till 2024, 2025, and that's when we're going to start. And when I say all the madness, I don't necessarily mean the pandemic. I mean like other things that would come after that,
No, I don't see that. That would be a lower timeline.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then they said at 2024, 2025, then we would start to go into the golden age and
I see the golden age as 2030, but we'll be building up to that constantly until we get there. But there will be some crazy years, because it may not be crazy for us. Like we might feel fine, but the people that are just awakening, they're going to be stressed out. You know, so it'll be your perspective on it. Like, I'm sure that some people, after the sky changes and everything falls apart, well, I get it's going to be kind of a periwinkle color. So, which is like purplish blue, but definitely darker than what we see now, but the sun will be bigger and brighter.
Yeah, and that's the crystalline sun. So the crystalline sun's always been there. It's just been hidden behind the dome. Right,
exactly. And they had that false sun in here, which was kind of like I don't really understand what it's made of completely, but it's some sort of weird plasma generator, and it's not the right frequency. So that's why we would get all those sunburns. I also think seed oils have a lot to do with sunburns. So eating a lot of seed oil is not good. Yeah. Oh man, this is so much. It's a long rabbit hole.
Sure is.
Yeah. But I mean, there is a playlist of the hidden history stuff. So if you start at the beginning, and this is just for the audience, like if you start at the beginning, it just kind of builds and it's easier to follow because there's so much. And I'm trying to be like general too, because I don't see any point in getting super detailed about anything. But it gives you the gist of what's happened. Yeah.
So you wanted to know also why I decided to stop doing the videos and change direction. I don't think we spoke about that.
Yeah.
I've always kind of taken detours in life, if you know what I mean. Like I always kind of like, when I first started business, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started that business so I could do music. When looking back, wouldn't it just been easier if I just did music? You know what I mean? Like, so I got to this point now where the YouTube channel was, I had released some music and stuff, but I find it as a, Tamara?
Yeah, I love her.
She does videos. Yeah.
Great.
I did a soul reading with Tamara, and she said that I was a grade 6 soul, third level or something. I think third level, or something like that. And she said, as a grade 6 soul, you have to be doing a lot of things, otherwise you get bored. And I was like, yeah, okay. I do a bunch of different things. I've got work, and then I've got the music, and I've got the YouTube. It's three is kind of good. But then it got to the point where I was like, I kind of want to streamline things,
Yeah.
because juggling all this stuff is tough. Like it takes up so much time. So I was like, okay, well, I feel like I've always wanted to do a music channel. So I wanted to have this whole channel dedicated to music, because most of the people on the channel that I have now, they're mostly there for this kind of information, and
Right.
and if I don't really want to produce that information anymore, then there are so many people like yourself and other people out there doing this kind of stuff that I kind of felt like, well, they do it a lot better than me, so I should go with the thing that I've always wanted to do and where I feel like most drawn to. So
Yeah.
I decided
to do your mission. Time for your mission. Yeah. And if you think about it too, you're doing it in that certain frequency is going to help so many people. And even the people that are just, there to listen to, truther stuff, you're going to be helping them build their crystalline body. You're going to be helping them find their gifts. Just the frequency will start to unlock things for people. So it's a beautiful time to start that, because that's your mission, in life. And I think we're all starting to get to the point where it's time to start our mission. So yeah.
Because it's been a good 2.5 years or so since all this stuff, since everything got ramped up, and as I said to you before we came on, I might have said this at the start. I forget now because we had a few conversations, but I did it for the time being that I wanted. You know what I mean? Like I felt called, so I had to do it, and it was the thing that I needed to be done. But now it's a very different time. So many more people are awake, and so I felt like, it's maybe I just intuitively felt like it was the time to do it as well.
Yeah.
And just thought, maybe now is the time to switch lanes, so to speak, and go down the original path that I've always wanted to do ever since.
Well, it's creation mode,
and
it's time to start creating. So it's great that you're doing it, like that you got the hit from your intuition, like now it's time, and everybody should be doing something that pertains to their mission right now. Just start in a small way, or start to figure out what it is or whatever. And
because figuring it out is one of the what's the first hurdle, really, isn't it? You need to figure it out first. But then we've got all the mental hurdles as well, because admittedly, part of the reason why I didn't do it before is because I just didn't have the mindset for it. Otherwise I would have done it. So there were so many mental barriers I had to overcome, especially doing it at my age when I'd already, I was like 30, 35 when I decided to start doing music. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, you're too old. Like all these different things that are coming into play, and like and then, but I was like, nah, you're not too old. There are plenty of people older than you, doing it or just starting or whatever. And the thing is once you get started, starting is the hardest, but once you get started, you just can't be stopped. So if anybody is listening who wants to start, just get started, and you'll find that it will just snowball, and you'll build momentum, and then you'll look back and you go, well, why didn't I do this earlier? Because but then you won't even think about that necessarily, because do I kind of regret not starting earlier? Maybe a little bit, but now because of the momentum I've built, doesn't play in my mind so much anymore, because I'm doing it now. So it's, once you get started, you just, you'll find your groove.
Yeah. Well, and you can come out of linear time too. So
right. Yeah.
We're going to live so much longer.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, I mean, you're going to be hundreds of years old. So why not have fun? Like that whole thing of when you're 60, you're going to like get to the point where you're just like getting ready to die, basically thing. That's been a lie in programming as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a video I watched yesterday, Sasha Stone did, and
Hmm.
he showed us a picture of this guy who was apparently over 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
Do you know who that is? Do you know who that is?
No,
That
but I
guy?
believe
No.
it. Yeah.
I think it was 1,117, if I remember correctly. And I was like, well, shit, he's already 117 is
Yeah.
already pretty good, but he's over 1,000 years old.
Yeah. I think some of the ETs live to be like probably 4,000. So it really depends on your consciousness, how long you're going to live this go around as we switch out bodies and all that kind of stuff, like as our body goes from carbon to crystalline.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always see like 300 to 400 being very achievable, very. And a lot of people will go farther than that.
Yeah. And of course, all the poisons that we have to deal with have played a massive part in it too.
Yeah, but that'll all get cleaned up. And even with a carbon-based body, all your cells were different 7 years later. So a lot of it is how we program our body, what our belief system is. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of people think that maybe you say cancer runs in the family, and that's a program. So they get to a certain age and they go, well, now it's time to get cancer, or
Exactly.
unconsciously, of course, they don't know. But
well, I have a friend on Facebook, and she said, I always knew that I would get cancer in my in my brain, I think is where it was. And she did.
Yeah, of course she did.
So she manifested it for herself.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. So we have to be careful. They say mind your mind. It's important.
Yeah, I know. I always think like how different things would be when I became more aware of frequency and vibration and just the programs that we have, especially knowing what the school system is like. I was like, imagine how different it would be if we were just programmed with success and abundance and love and peace and joy from a young age. Like the world would be completely different, and all it would take would just be to change that one thing, and it would be everything would be different.
And it will.
And it's hard to comprehend, isn't it? Especially for people who don't understand all that stuff that we just spoke about. It's just so difficult to comprehend that just a small adjustment could yield the biggest results, the world over.
Mm-hmm. That's why self-love is so important, like realizing who you are and loving yourself for who you are and being satisfied for, and forgiving yourself for all the little things that have happened along the way. Like maybe you were mean to someone, maybe you had a horrible experience, whatever it is, a bad relationship. As you get through that stuff, then you become more and more free. It's like a lead weight that like lives on your back, so as you let go of it, it's going to just be easier and easier to go forward.
Yeah. It's really fascinating time.
It is.
Time to be alive.
And this has been fascinating. I would love to talk to you again. So
yeah.
It's been great.
For sure. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah. And thank you for coming. Definitely. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye.